Okay, we are live now. So welcome everybody to Wednesday morning, Empire Masterminds. This week we have a very, very special guest, someone who's very near and dear to our hearts because Bruce and I work with Jackie all the time. She is our part of our what we call A team. She's our closer and she's amazing. And Jackie
Love
has
her.
been, yeah, Jackie's been with Rochester Title for the past 23 years and more than 30 years of experience in the local real estate market. And I will attest to the fact that if you need anything, like she's my go-to person. If I have a question, if I need help with anything, I get an immediate answer. And I love that because this woman knows what she's talking about. She strives to make the process of signing all documents, not just painless, but a celebration of your home buyer's dreams coming true. I will second that as well. She makes it very fun. She and her other half, Tony, have 4 kids. And Jackie loves watching her boys play football for centuries. She's probably the biggest football fan I've ever met in my life. Yeah. And she's a diehard Viking fan. Okay, there's the one chink in your armor because I'm the Green Bay girl. But anyway, she's always daydreaming of her next trip to the West Coast to see the orca whales. So everybody welcome Jackie, title closer extraordinaire. Yay, 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 yay. So
Thank you for
Jackie, I'll just
having
turn it over
me.
to you. I know you've got lots of good stuff for us today, so I'll turn it over to you. We'll monitor the chat in case there's any questions. And as people pop on, we'll just keep that open and we'll let you know if anybody has any questions. Okay.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me. This is amazing. 2 of my favorite agents are on here right now. Just love Bruce and Kelly. So I have a few things to talk about. Some new things that are kind of coming along. We are doing cash buyers these days. They don't actually have to come into our office. They can sign via DocuSign. So that works really nice because they're only in our office usually like 15 minutes anyway. Being a cash buyer, there's just a few documents. But we can send all of their documents through DocuSign. I can still be on the phone with them, going through the documents, answering any questions that they may have. A lot of times then they'll just send a wire for their money that they need to bring in. Sometimes they'll drop off a cashier's check, but most of the time, since they're just doing everything through DocuSign, they'll just drop that or send in that wire. Works really good. We usually will wait for confirmation from agents or the people that it's okay to go ahead and disperse those deals once that walkthrough is done. Because sometimes they're not here and you guys are doing that walkthrough. So that's new. We've also got some new stuff coming with sellers. Fairly new, I guess I should say. There's 3 different portals or online stuff that we can use for sellers. One is called Pavaso. One is called notarize.com and then notary cam. So there's 3 different things and they kind of vary. Pavaso, we do here in our office. One of the attorneys goes on and she can do all of that online signing with them. They have to have certain requirements for each one. So Pavaso, they have to have a laptop or desktop computer with a camera, microphone, and speakers, a cell phone with a US number, and credit history in the US. So as long as they have those, they're able to do Pavaso from pretty much anywhere.
And what is Pavaso? It's just basically a signing of the documents through kind of like this through via Zoom.
Yep, kind of
or through that program.
Yep, it's an online portal where documents are uploaded. It's kind of like a Zoom because the Sarah can see the people as she's signing. They can see her. She can go through the documents, and those are classed as originals.
Okay,
so it's really, really slick. And
we'll be
offering
just for sellers.
For sellers only as of right now. There are a few lenders that are coming and getting on board to do online stuff. Not sure how I feel about that because I don't want my job to go away.
Oh, I suppose, but we've dealt with this for years, Jackie. I mean, everybody's like, oh, the realtor's going to go away and the blah, blah, blah. But I just don't think the, the human factor will disappear.
Right.
I really don't.
Yeah. And I think the majority of people want to be in the room with me.
Mhm.
They want to know about those documents. They want to know what they're signing.
Mhm.
We found out with the pandemic, we weren't in the same room with the people. We were outside a car or in a different room talking from phone to phone, and they didn't like it.
Right.
And neither did we.
Yeah.
There's some lenders that will do part of it through like an e-sign, but I still have to do closing disclosure form, Alta settlement statement, the note, mortgage, name affidavit, anything that's really kind of notarized, they still have me do here in the office.
Okay.
But some of the junk docs per se, they'll just do online.
Okay.
But some of those junk docs are like their initial escrow. So then we print them out, put them in their folder, and then when they go to leave, I'll make sure that they know that all of those documents are still in there. And kind of show them, hey, if you have questions about these, just holler back at me.
Yeah.
Tell me the title and I'll tell you what it is. Because most of them have just gone through, signed it, but they really haven't looked at it, read it.
Right. Well, I know for years we've been talking about, will closings ever get to be online, right? I mean, it just kind of seems like the natural progression for things. But understandably, why that's probably not happened over, I mean, obviously now just starting, but there's just a lot of fraud. There's a lot of things that could go wrong, so understandable that hasn't happened to this point, but that's kind of, it's interesting to hear that we're just starting to get into it a little bit more.
Right. And all of these platforms, the Pavaso, the notarize.com and the Notary Cam, they have those certain questions that only you would know,
Okay.
back in 1980, what kind of car did you have, or what street did you live on? They have to make sure that they know those answers
Okay.
to pass this, to be able to sign it this way.
And did you say that like someone has to be watching them sign or not necessarily?
On the Pavaso one, they have to have a camera, a microphone, and a speaker. So I think it's just kind of like I haven't actually watched Sarah do it, but I think it's just kind of like this through a Pavaso.
Okay, interesting.
Notarize.com, that one, they have to have a computer, tablet, or a smartphone, a social security number. They're available 24/7 and appointments not necessary. So they just upload the documents, and I think it's $25 for the first document, $10 for each one after that. And somebody will just notarize their documents.
Wow.
That one we use every once in a while. And then Notary Cam, that one, they have to have a computer, tablet, smartphone, $30 for a single document, international signing surcharge of $50. So they can even be international. $150 for multiple documents. Again, the surcharge, and there's a rush request if something needed to be done really fast. That one needs at least 24 hours of notice. And the customer can request a certain time and they'll do whatever.
So do you see, I mean, this picking up and gaining a lot of momentum soon or like quickly, or do you think this will still take a long time to get going?
I still think it's going to take a long time to get going. We're going to put it out into our intro emails that go out to the customers and you guys, that just says, hey, if you're not available to come into our office, we can do mailaways and we can do these other platforms.
Okay.
So it might pick up a little bit just based off that.
Okay.
For the most part, I think if people are here in town, they still want to come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find that using these, because obviously I've never seen it on the receiver's side. I don't know what that looks like. Is it a secure, like kind of like when you would send a secure or encrypted email to us, so that we know it's coming from you, it's protected. Is that how it's going to them, with especially with documents that may have social security numbers on them and whatnot?
Yes, all of those are all secure.
Okay.
And that's why they have to answer those certain questions.
Yep.
To be able to make sure that it's them that's answering those questions and not somebody just, being in the room with them. And I think that's why on like Pavaso, there is that camera.
Yep.
They want to make sure that there's nobody kind of in the same room making you sign those documents.
True. Interesting.
So, but yeah, so it's coming slowly. I'm okay with it coming slowly.
Yeah.
Kind of an old school girl.
Yeah. Well, I do agree that kind of just having that person there to go through and explain things to you and having someone answer questions. Not that you don't with these other programs, because if somebody's there to watch you and whatnot. But yeah, just that personal touch. I don't know that that's ever going to go away. You just might be monitoring cameras and screens going forward versus, in person necessarily.
Right. I'm not sure I like that.
I know.
I'm not sure I like the whole camera thing.
I know. Well, that's interesting. We've been saying for years, when is this going to go remote? When is it going to go remote? So it sounds like we're on our way.
On our way, slowly but surely.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Another thing that I wanted to bring up is Bruce and Kelly have this amazing transaction form that they fill out, and it gives us all the information that we need when that purchase agreement comes over. So it has the customer's names, where each party is closing. It has their emails, their phone numbers, their current address, all of the information that we need to get started on that file, and to be able to send out our introduction letters. They get introduction letters on a seller, a buyer. Seller, the introduction goes out, and then we send out another email that is kind of through DocuSign that they fill out to give us their information, their loan numbers, mortgage companies, HOA dues. Sometimes we find out that point that maybe they're not married or going through a divorce, not going to be here for closing. So it's kind of nice to have all of that information so that we're not constantly bugging you guys going, okay, I need an email, I need an address, I need this. It's all right there on that form that you guys send over.
Yeah, Bruce, maybe you can share your screen. Can you pull that up so we can show everybody what that looks like?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing. The top of it will tell me whether it's a buyer or a seller.
I got to move some stuff around here. Hold on a second. Sorry, got a lot of junk open. Didn't anticipate doing this.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. Here we go.
Probably go to buyers, I bet.
No.
Okay.
No. Well, right here. So let's just look at this. So you want me to go over it real quick?
Sure.
So so here it's the seller is selling to whomever, and this one happens to say we represent seller and buyer. I've got one for strictly seller. I've got one for strictly buyer, and shows the property address, closing date, purchase price, earnest money, buyer broker commission, any BAC fee that you charge. Same thing for the seller. It's got seller information, seller number 1 and 2, seller's closing company, attorney, seller's real estate agent, and then it's got all the same things for the buyer, buyer's names, closing company, real estate agent, lender, and then just any particular other information down here. if the seller's paying buyer closing costs, if there's this home sale contingency, if the seller's paying for a home warranty, these two you don't have to worry about. And then just a little place for notes down here. And it's we've created this as a fillable Word doc online.
Well, let's
So
be real. You created it
okay,
because I'm not techie. But
sorry.
as I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is pretty nice that you did an autofill. I love it.
Yeah, and so I autofill it, I save it as a PDF, shoot it over to Jackie, and then don't save it over this template, and then just reuse it every time. So it's pretty simple.
Nice.
Well, it was pretty simple.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd love to take credit, or we'd love to take credit, but I think, over the years, having done many transactions with many different agents, there have been, situations where the other agent in our transaction had something similar, and we, the old rob and duplicate, we loved that. It was just it was easy for us too. There's one place to go to find all of that information. If you needed to contact the lender, the title company, the whatever, buyer, seller. It was just one place versus trying to look through all the different paperwork that you get. And then obviously, as Jackie mentions, it makes their job a lot easier as well because they've got one place to look for that pertinent information as well. So,
Okay, so unlike Kelly, I'm going to take 100% credit for creating this.
Yeah.
I didn't steal it from anybody. This is me. I should have my little copyright thing right down here at the bottom.
Good.
I'm just saying that we've gotten different formats of this. So, yeah. So,
Well, it's absolutely amazing. And you send it over with the purchase agreement. So a lot of times I have agents that will send me the purchase agreement and say, here, you're handling the buyer. So I don't actually open the files. It goes to our order entry. So then I forward that purchase agreement onto the order entry and say, okay, we're handling the buyer's side. But that's all the information I have except for what's in the purchase agreement. Well, then the next email I get after I've sent that on to orders has the commission statement, or then the next email has, their address, their emails, this and that. So then I'm like, okay, well, I need to get it out of my email, but I don't want to send it to orders to mess up their stuff. So I put it into a folder. Well, until that file's open. Well, orders has, how many orders that they're trying to open up at the same time. So that's why every once in a while we'll send out another email that says, hey, we don't have a commission statement, or we don't have emails. Well, it's because it's in my email in a folder, but I haven't realized that the file has been opened yet. So this comes all at one time. It has everything we need. It's amazing.
oh, good. Good. I'm glad that it works for you. And,
Yeah.
and like I said, we believe highly in the R&D department, the rob and duplicate. So if anybody wants a copy of this, let us know. We're happy to just send you our version, and you can tweak it however you need to tweak it. So I'm all about making it simple for people.
Sweet. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
The other thing I have is, so the city of Rochester has set up some new special assessments. And before it was, you would be responsible for the sidewalk in front of your house. And they would send out a bill once they go out. So they go out and they put a pink X on your sidewalk if they need to be fixed. Then they would send you a bill, and you would either pay that up front. It could go into your taxes and be rolled. You could hire your own contractor to do that. And that got to be kind of a mess because the contractors, don't want to go out and do one pad of a sidewalk. They want to be able to do, a bunch and not have to drag their work equipment from place to place. So the city of Rochester voted on this, and they have what's called a sidewalk improvement district policy. And what they're doing is, in a roundabout way, they've started in the southeast area because that's where they were in the previous way they were doing stuff. And so they're starting in Southeast. They're going to be working mainly on sidewalks in the Slatterly Park area. Okay. They'll still do a few other places, but what's happening is they went out and they bid those. And then not only the people that have the sidewalk in front of their house are going to be paying, it's going to be everybody in that district. So Slatterly Park is Southeast Rochester. So everybody in the Southeast area is going to pay in their monthly or in their taxes every year. So it's starting in Southeast, then it's going Southwest. There's a Southeast, Southwest, Northwest, and then there's a NC, which is like a central, Northeast, and then downtown. Downtown is going to be done the same time as Northeast is, because that is the least part or the least amount of people in that area, least amount of parcels, I guess.
Okay.
So what they're doing is they did this bid, they bid it all out in amongst all of the parcels. And so everybody in Southeast Rochester is going to be paying 50, I think it's $58 every
Yep.
single year
Yeah.
for 5 years.
Okay. So my question is, when you're done with the 5 years, then what happens?
So they are doing the work this year. Next year, we will see it on our bills for the taxes. It's still called a special assessment, but it's in the taxes. Okay. So then next year, when we're getting billed, they'll be actually doing work in Southwest Rochester, who will be billed the following year. Then it goes to Northwest, same thing. So it works its way around this little map here.
Okay.
Okay. You'll have the same amount for 5 years. So it'll be 50, 53, 58, whatever it is for 5 years. By the time they come back around to Southeast, they'll be working on another area of Southeast Rochester. They'll do that bid. They'll bid it out, divided by the parcels, and that's what you'll pay for the next 5 years.
So you're going to constantly have this assessment going forward every year, somewhere for starters right now in the $50 per year. If you have a sidewalk,
Yep,
if you don't have a sidewalk, what I understand is it's what, maybe half that.
half that.
Okay. But everybody, like their mentality is that everybody's using sidewalks, whether you got one by your house or not, you're walking on them, you're using them. So everybody should be responsible to help maintain those sidewalks, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so that's kind of their mentality behind it. And then, so if you have one abutting your property, you've got this 50 some dollar assessment. If you don't have one particularly abutting your property, you're going to pay 20 something roughly. And then you'll pay that
This
for you'll pay that for 5 years. And then they'll be on a new project and they'll rebid it out and it could adjust that, and you'll pay that new number then for the next 5 years.
Yep.
And so this is just going to continue forever and ever.
They say it's going to continue for 20 years,
Okay.
but it's going to continue forever and ever until they decide that they're going to figure out a different way of doing it.
Yeah. Okay. So what does that mean then? Let's take it the next step further. What does that mean as a real estate agent? You know, now that I've just put on 4 new listings here, like as we get offers or we're writing offers on properties, how are we addressing this? Because it is an assessment.
It is an assessment, which is crazy because they're saying that if you read through all of the mail that comes to the homeowners, it says it's an assessment, an assessment, an assessment, but it can't be paid like an assessment. It has to be paid in the taxes each year. So normally your purchase agreements, most of you will write that the seller is responsible for paying any special assessments that they know about. Okay. Well, they know that this is going to be for 5 years, but you can only pay the $53 or $58 in your property taxes each year. It can't be paid up front.
Okay.
Okay, and it has to go to the county, not to the city, not to anybody else. It goes directly to the county with your taxes. But it's not a tax, it's not a referendum, it's a special assessment. So I know they are working on some new verbiage in the purchase agreement. Or I know CMAR is also working on maybe like some an addendum to the purchase agreement verbiage that just says that, you know, maybe the seller is responsible for the year of closing, but the buyer is going to take over and understands that they're taking over everything else.
Okay.
Because there's no way that that seller can pay it upfront. And no way that your title company can also do a holdback for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We don't even know how much that's going to be.
Could they
Because-
do it though, Jackie, kind of like we prorate taxes? So if we know, let's just say it's $55 just for easy math, right? $55 times 5, you know, is going to be what? 110, 220, 265, whatever, 275. So could you just do it like a credit on the seller side and or a debit on the seller side and a credit on the buyer side of the 275? So the buyer's getting that money, even though they'll be paying it, kind of like we prorate taxes. You know what I mean?
Right. You could, I guess for that 5 years, but then, you know, the next 5, you don't have any idea what those are.
Right.
And it would kind of, I guess, depend on maybe what the lender says also, if they'll allow, you know, that credit on there.
Yep. Okay.
That question what in the classes that we had, that was not brought up to do, you know.
Yeah. Well, I wonder just from a standpoint of, you know, I get it. Like, you know, if it can't be paid ahead, you know, to just, I think you can obviously find some mutual agreement, hopefully between most buyers and sellers, you know, but if you didn't, and, you know, a buyer definitely said, I'm not paying that, you know, could you do it at least for a 5-year time frame, you know, kind of do the proration system.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah. Okay. Even though it's not prorated, but yeah.
Yeah. And we can prorate or, you know, whatever, usually that first year. But like this year, you know, all of us in Southeast, we know that there's that special assessment out there. We know the amount, but it hasn't come onto our taxes yet. It won't be till next year that's on our taxes.
Okay.
Well, okay, so now let's say I sell my house. Okay, I've already gotten the notice that those special assessments are out there or going to be out there, but yet they're not billed on my taxes yet. Okay. So then let's say you buy my house and next year you decide to sell it. You haven't actually gotten that notice because there's not going to be any more notices that go out. It's just going to be on your taxes.
So then is it really a special assessment? Like, why wouldn't they just add it to the tax amount then?
Right. That's what we have tried to, you know, say. Every single spot on the letter says special assessment, special assessment, special assessment. And it's not a referendum. It's not a tax. It's a special assessment. So that little section in that purchase agreement that are talking about special assessments, you don't want to take that out or always put that, you know, the buyer's going to pay those special assessments.
Yeah.
Because this is just for the sidewalk improvement district, which they call SID, which is absolutely terrible. They should have come up with a different name, but you know, if there are street repairs or lawn care, snow removal, you know, that kind of stuff, you still are going to want that seller to pay that for the most part. I mean, that's usually what the purchase agreements say. You know, because that snow removal, that yard work, that was their stuff. You're not going to want that buyer to take over that.
Right.
So that's why they were working on an addendum rather than just that little section in the purchase agreement.
Okay. And I agree. I think that if this is something that we're going to have for the next 20 years, you know, we have to have something that specifically addresses this, not lump it in with other assessments or, you know, other things. So that explained to me if right now it's southeast, that's they know already, here's what your amount is going to be. You might not see it on your taxes yet, or you might not have gotten any, but you guys know what your amount is, correct? For
Yes.
southeast. Okay. So if I am an agent and I'm working on a house that's northwest, let's say, and northwest is the next one, or southwest is the next one to get, assessed next year with a project. They don't know what the amount is. There isn't an assessment in place yet. I mean, they know it's gonna happen. They
But
just
they haven't
don't know
gotten the
the amount
notice.
is. Yeah. So how do we, we're selling a property today. Would we still be using that same verbiage then?
I wouldn't think so. Just
Okay.
because they haven't gotten those notices yet.
Okay.
Southeast has gotten the notices. We know that that's out there. Next year is going to be Southwest.
Okay.
So it'll be Southeast, Southwest for a little bit. But then by the time you get back to Southeast, it's going to be every single quadrant.
Yeah. Okay. So bottom line, in 5 years, this will maybe be a moot point, or it'll be probably part of an addendum that we add in, as just normal practice, I guess, so to speak. Okay.
Yep. And
But
it
for
should-
now, we just need to worry about if we're dealing with Southeast properties, this is what should be in place for Southeast properties currently.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I lost my thought. Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, too much. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, like if you haven't received the notice, especially from a disclosure standpoint, right? You're disclosing on a sale too, like, hey, we know this is coming down the pipeline because we're hearing about it, but we haven't received a notice. I mean, is it something that should be on a disclosure as well?
Right. I would think so. At least for Southeast as of right now,
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. They're saying it's going to be 20 years, but at the same time, what are they going to do after that 20 years? There's going to be more sidewalks that are breaking apart.
Right.
So they're either going to have to continue with this program or do something different.
Yeah. What are some of the other questions or concerns that people had from the class that you can think of? Like, I know you guys have been doing kind of these lunch and learn classes, or these, informational classes for the real estate community here.
A lot of the concern was like homeowners that own like apartment buildings or condos or different stuff like that, where there's a multiple parcel IDs, and then businesses, if they own businesses, that, so the like Southeast is $58, whatever that is, I can't remember. If you don't have a sidewalk, then it's half of that, so it's times 0.5. But if you have a business, those are, I believe, like times 6.
Okay. Wow.
And so there's a lot of businesses out there that, they came to the meeting, and so they're worried about how much they're going to end up paying after that 20 years.
Right.
Because it depends on how much feet you have, but really how many parcels you have for each one of your buildings. And the city didn't, think about any of that when they were putting all of this in place.
Okay.
So
Well, there may be some revisions or some rewrite to this program as they go through the growing pains of like, oops, yep, we forgot about that, or we didn't think about that.
right.
So, okay. And so for real estate agents in our area, this is in effect right now. So if you're dealing with Southeast Minnesota property or Southeast Rochester, Olmsted County, because is it a city or is it a Olmsted?
It's City of Rochester.
Okay.
But when the city was talking to us about it, they did say that there are other cities that have adapted the same thing, up in the city's area or wherever. So it'd be interesting to see what they've got going on.
Yeah.
With how they're handling that special assessment, because we've done stuff up there and I don't remember seeing anything per se on the purchase agreement that dealt with that.
Yeah. Angela, I don't know if you're tuning in here, paying attention.
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah. Are you aware of anything up there in the metro area like this?
No, I have not heard anything like that.
Okay.
Interesting though.
Yeah. I mean, I conceptually, I understand, like the why they would put something like this together. It's probably just easier, right? That everybody's kicking in. We have this pool of money we can work on, doing these better projects for the sidewalks. But yeah, it's certainly just new to us. And we just need to know as real estate professionals, how we're protecting our client, whether it's the buyer or the seller, and that we're just having full transparency, going into the transaction, in regards to disclosure and, addressing it on the purchase agreement. So it sounds like right now, excuse me, sounds like right now, it's just those properties in Southeast that we're dealing with. And then next year, and when we say next year, Jackie, is it January 1st or like, how are we looking at the timeline here?
I believe it's January 1st. They said that we would see that amount come on, like our taxes, like in November.
Okay.
So those would, they would come on the taxes in November, but really be paid the following year.
Okay.
So I think it's January to January per se.
And do you remember when you got the notice as a Southeast homeowner?
It went into effect February 1st. So I
Okay.
think it was back in February that we actually received that mailing.
Okay. So then I would assume the next quadrant somewhere in January, whatever, will receive that notice as well. And then they'll be the same thing. It'll get assessed in October and November to their taxes for the following year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And what I can do is I can send all of this information out to you.
Okay.
There's like an overview from the city of Rochester. And then they also have like a video that you can watch that shows the different, out of those quadrants, where those are going to be, where they're going to be working on the sidewalks.
Yeah, if you can send that information to me, then if what I'll do is I'll post it on Empire Mastermind Facebook page. So that anybody, who wants that information, they can go watch that video or get the information. So
okay.
Perfect. Perfect. So
yeah, so it's a little bit interesting just because of what our purchase agreement says. And with it being only in the city of Rochester, you guys have your constant changing of the purchase agreements in August.
Yeah.
But it's just the city of Rochester. So they're not going to per se change that purchase agreement,
right.
Just for us. So,
yeah, I think like you said, it'll probably be that our local, real estate association will adopt an amendment, that specifically addresses this, or they'll put it on the brokerages, the individual brokerages that serve that area, to come up with something. I don't know. I did see some verbiage already from a couple brokers. They've put together some kind of an amendment or a clause that has gone in the body of the purchase agreement. So, I mean, that's great. Just again, I would say if you're an agent listening, make sure that whatever you're putting on the purchase agreement to address this is approved by your broker, so that you're not, renegading it here and being your own attorney. We want to make sure that it's, it's safe and it protects everybody. So.
Yeah. We also have kind of a form that we have the people sign, if we have the buyers here, that just states that, you understand that this is out there. And usually by the time they get to us, they already know about it.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, there's somebody that, hasn't seen anything about it. Sellers didn't say anything about it. So then it's brand new when they get to us. But we want to make sure that they know what's going on.
Yeah, that's a smart idea. Nobody likes a surprise at the closing table.
No.
Well, yeah. Okay, well, good. Well, this is good information because I know I personally, like I said, I have not been able to make some of your informational sessions. So thank you very much for being with us today to be able to explain that. And I know not everybody who tunes in is local out of our area, but we do have quite a few, that work this part of the state. So this is good, very good information. So what about other stuff in regards to title, like anything else from your perspective, being a closer, working with our clients that you wish we were doing or that we should be aware of to make your job easier?
I guess the one thing that comes to mind is, let's say you have a married couple and they've already told you that they're going to use his income, not hers.
Yeah.
So you put one name on that purchase agreement because that's who's buying the property, that's who's getting the loan. But it comes to closing and, oh, they want to put their spouse into title. Both of them really should be on the purchase agreement all the way through. The lender's going to deal with their part of it, stating, hey, this is the only one that's going to be on most of the documents, but we want to make sure that the spouse is in title. So they both should be on the purchase agreement.
Okay. We get that question a lot. And I don't know if agents are always aware of that, but if from a lender standpoint, if you need both of you on the loan to qualify, then you both better be on the purchase agreement, right? But if only one of you is needed for the mortgage, you don't need to put both on the purchase agreement. But if they both think they're going to be in title, you're right, then they do need to be on the purchase agreement, or they should be on the purchase agreement. So it's just, if you're needed for the loan, you need to be on the purchase agreement. That's kind of the kicker. So yeah, a lot of nuances there. Okay.
Yep.
What about trust? This comes up all the time. So I am listing a house and it is in the name per the tax records of the trust. Should I be writing like my listing agreement or all the paperwork with the seller as the trust, or am I okay still putting, if it's a husband and wife and they've set up their own personal trust, am I okay to still listing them individually?
I honestly don't know that.
Okay.
It's easier if they are in a trust that you put the trustee information on there, or the trust information on there, and they sign as trustee.
Okay.
Just because you'll get some people that, they'll put it as the individuals. And then when title work comes out, it's in a trust. And then it gets very confusing. Well, how come the purchase agreement's not in a trust?
Right.
How come this? And sometimes you don't know, sometimes the tax records don't completely show that trust, so that you don't even know that.
Okay. But you as a title company, you'll need all the trust documents, right? Like if we are dealing with it, you're going to need all of that. So to prepare our clients who do have their property in a trust, they need to know that that's going to be requested.
Yes, we will request a copy of the trust. And sometimes they'll drop off certain pages of it. Others, it's not a great big 3-ring binder. So they'll just email it to us, and that just gets forwarded on to the attorneys. The attorneys look through that, and they determine what needs to be signed or who needs to sign it. They actually prepare our certificate of trust, affidavit of trustee, and our deed for us. They're the attorneys. They know what those should say. They don't want us closers or processors doing that part of it.
Okay, awesome. I know there's so many different situations that are out there. Does anybody have any questions for Jackie in regards to maybe a situation you've dealt with, or a question you have in regards to title work?
Lenders policies, owners policies, anything?
I might have a random question just on your industry. So it's like off topic. But I had read somewhere, and now I can't even formulate all the thoughts around this, but that there could be some regulation coming in title beyond what we maybe already have, or there was a test market somewhere in the country, and I don't know if it was government involvement where they were starting to do the title work versus title companies. Have you heard any rumblings on that?
Oh, I have not.
I'm looking for the article that I came across at one time, so no worries that you haven't, but if I find it, I'll shoot it over to Kelly, but I was just curious.
Yeah, that would be great. I will take it to the president of the company here, my manager, and just double check as to if they've heard anything. But
Interesting.
even with all the emails that I've received, from the different companies or our different underwriters, I haven't seen anything for that.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Interesting though.
You know, and no fear mongering or anything there. I just thought it was interesting too. And, we have so many things in our real estate industry, that is being looked upon. So I was just curious if there was any chatter on your side of it. If I come across it, I'll share.
Okay, awesome, thanks.
Angela. Any other questions? Okay, so Jackie, just if you wouldn't mind, give us just a little bit about Rochester Title, like where your locations are, give us your little spiel about the great work that you guys do.
Okay. So Rochester, that's gonna, you're testing me now. They've been around for 30 some years,
Yeah.
maybe, I
Mhm.
think. I can't remember the exact year of it. I've been here I'm working on my 24th year. Before that, I was at a real estate company for 8 years. And before y'all do the math, I was 4. So Rochester Title, it has an office here in Rochester. We're at 2870 Superior Drive Northwest. We have 2 buildings, one that houses most of our closers and processors, another building actually right next to it that houses our title department and also our commercial, because we do residential, we have commercial, we have construction, we have a fabulous construction disbursement department. They're absolutely amazing, and those girls can wrap their head around new construction like no tomorrow. We have 2 attorneys on staff that help us through everything. With Rochester Title, we're also Minnesota secured title. And so we have an office in Austin, and we have an office in Owatonna, and those are Minnesota secured. We travel to, the Austin office travels to Albert Lee a lot in that area. Owatonna does kind of the same thing. They travel to some of those. We've been known to travel kind of wherever we are needed.
Were you up in
Rochester
St.
Title-
Cloud at one time?
We were, yeah.
Okay.
Not anymore. That one was shut down, and then we also were in Winona.
Okay.
And they were kind of different.
Yep.
Had different things going on, so
Yeah.
those were shut down. But Rochester Title, Minnesota Secure Title is part of Title Midwest.
Okay.
Title Midwest is actually who owns us, and they're out of Kansas. Now they own companies in Kansas, Missouri, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Texas. So not only do we have all of us here, which there's like 40 of us here at Rochester Title, Minnesota Secured, but we also have all of those companies that if we can't figure something out, we can ask someone within the company. But also if you guys have people relocating to some of those companies, we know people that can give the service that we give, the service beyond expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can, like I said, attest from personal experience that I have closed with Jackie probably 95% of my real estate career. I've done my closings with Jackie and Rochester Title as a whole, and they are a fantastic group. If I ever have a question, I would say if I got an answer within 24 hours, that would be a long time before I got an answer. Usually it's within an hour or two and on weekends, and most closers aren't available on weekends, but Jackie, even to clients, the buyers, sellers who she's closing for, she gives her cell phone number. She makes herself readily available. So, and her team is amazing. I mean, Jackie's amazing, but I know she would tell you she would defer to a lot of her team, which is Sue Castellano and then Callan Clausen. They work as a team together, and we get to communicate with them on a regular basis. So thank you for all you do, Jackie and Rochester Title, and thank you for being here this morning. This is good. I learned a lot. Some good tidbits I can take away. So if anybody has any questions for Jackie, feel free to throw them in the chat or email me. I can get them over to Jackie and get an answer for you as well. And then we will pass on the information that she sends to us. We'll post that, like I said, in the Facebook group. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time this morning, Jackie. I appreciate your time. I know you got a full day of closing, so we'll let you get after it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Everybody have a great day. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.